Mr. Westerman from Arkansas is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Gosar, and thank you again to the witnesses. Dr. Nasser, in 2018, the critical minerals list, USGS, in the list, USGS included uranium despite it having both fuel and non-fuel uses, saying that input from other agencies emphasized uranium's important non-fuel uses. Then Director Fortier defended the decision to include uranium when he testified before this committee in 2019, listing the important non-fuel uses of uranium, including radiation shields, counterweights, and armor-piercing kinetic energy penetrators, as well as medical applications such as medical isotope production. However, uranium was noticeably absent from the updated list under this administration. The explanation for this cited uranium fuels uses as the disqualifying factor. I sent Secretary Haaland a letter on this issue in February of 2022 before the new critical minerals list was finalized, asking DOI to consider its decision to list uranium as military tensions in Eastern Europe came to a head, and unfortunately that request was denied. I'd like to submit that letter to the record. So what led USGS and its consulting agencies to change its mind about the importance of uranium's non-fuel uses and choose to not evaluate it as a critical mineral for the recent list?
Thank you for that question. I think what's changed is that the Energy Act was passed, and the Energy Act defines critical minerals as non-fuel and specifically excludes fuel minerals, and thus USGS did not evaluate uranium.
That seems to have changed since 2019 because it was, it's always had fuel and non-fuel uses. So were there other factors involved?
No, sir. The uses maybe have not changed, but the definition of what uranium is labeled as, is it a fuel mineral or not its uses.
Yeah, that just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me why it would be taken off the list after such a strong argument for it being on the list. That's why it's important for us to have these hearings and to come up with better policy moving forward. Mr. Sumner's, just yesterday, the Department of the Interior released the report from the Interagency Working Group on mining reforms. I will say I was obviously very disappointed, but not surprised to hear of several extremely harmful recommendations to change our domestic mining system, despite lip service about increasing mining for the administration's renewable goals. How harmful would these changes be to investment in a mining state with large amounts of federal land such as yours?
It would be incredibly damaging. So especially the idea of changing into a leasing system and the idea of royalties, which according to the proposal would be among the highest in the world, would be absolutely devastating to the hard rock mining industry.
Yeah, and we've seen what appears to be an attack on mining all around this country. At the same time, we see China dominating mining and mineral resources. And we also see policies that are making us more dependent on those minerals and elements that China produces. So as we talk about being more energy independent, as we talk about having more national security, it seems that reports like this one that came out yesterday fly right in the face of that. It's one thing to talk the talk, but we're not walking the walk in this administration.
Yeah, and I think you've seen that on a number of fronts. I mean, the latest report is one piece of evidence there. I mean, mineral withdrawals that we've seen all around the country. These are things that are very problematic to enable us to develop the mineral resources that we have that can lessen our dependence on places like China.
Right. It seems like it should just be common sense. Dr. Eggert, could you explain to your knowledge the real-world benefits, if any, of a commodity being designated as a critical mineral, and how does this compare to being designated as a critical material by DOE?
In my view, designation as a critical mineral or material shines a spotlight on the material or mineral overall. In terms of policy implications, I think one needs to then ask the question more narrowly: what is the narrower context of that particular supply chain, the technologies and products it's used in, and what the various policy mechanisms are. In terms of mineral versus material, I think it reflects, well, many people use the term synonymously. For those who focus on one or the other, I think it relates to the portion of the supply chain that is most prominent in a person's perspective. Critical mineral tends to be used by entities, people who have an upstream focus more than downstream, relatively speaking, and vice versa. So to me, it's not surprising that the USGS activity is critical mineral, whereas the Department of Energy activity is labeled critical material. But to me, they're all part of the same thing, and they really mean the same thing to me.
I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
I think